All right, got a little bit of time, so I'm gonna try and get a few things put back together on the bike. So I'm gonna sit you down and I'm gonna try and fill you in some of the detail parts of how things go back together. Some of you probably already taken a pull starter apart. There's some of you that haven't. And if you ever broke one or the rope breaks, spring breaks, maybe you'll watch this and say, hey, this is how that goes back together. So I'm gonna sit this thing down. We're gonna put the starter assembly back together, get the tins on the motor, and see how much time I have to see what else I can get done. So let's put you down and see if we can figure this out. All right, this is the starter assembly. So I spray red, this is just spray grease. You can put WD-40 or some type of lubricant like that. I like to use the red grease. Normally if you take one apart, this one's already been cleaned. I cleaned it all up because this was a used motor, so it was pretty grungy. So pull the spring out, got it all cleaned up, so now it's dry. So I'll just go along here, give it a good coat of this here red spray lube, spray grease. I also do the inside of the fan shroud housing and the stub that sticks out. Just give it a little coat the inside of the spring. Basically, inside the spring needs a catch right on the inside of this pocket. So you want to be tricky with it, or careful with it, because it's kind of tricky. The spring comes out, it'll bust you in the face, and then getting it back in is a job. So you just put it back in here. Actually, let me get this rope. A lot of these have a notch in them, just like so. Right here, you can take this rope and wrap it around. That way it's kind of out of your way while you're trying to reassemble this. Just turn it a little bit, and usually you'll feel it pop down and catch, just like so, and you'll see the inside stud piece that holds the bolt. That comes all the way up flush on the inside. You'll feel a little spring tension against it. Get this rope out of the way. Now what I do is I'll spray a little grease right on these inside pieces where the starter paws, or starter dogs, whatever you want to call them. I call them starter paws. You put your spring back in here, just like so. Push down on this, give it a little pressure. That rascal started. Just like so. Then you can go to wind your spring. If you keep this in the little notch, some of these have a notch in them, some don't. Then I just wind it up, and don't want to let it slip out of your fingers. Let it slip out of fingers, it kind of throws that spring out of whack. Then you got to take it all back apart, fix the spring. That could be a job. You get a good wind on it. Stay up there, rascal. Yeah. We're gonna call that about good. We're gonna back it off one turn. Back it off one turn, just hold the pressure on it. You can take the rope, feed it through the hole right there. Hold on to the rope. Voila. Throw me a quick little loop in it. Let that rest right there. Already burnt the end of these. You burn the end of them with a lighter and take you a paper towel and squish it down. So you don't burn your fingers, but then you have to worry about it fraying while you're trying to feed it through the hole or through the starter housing. A little double knot here. Just like so. Shove that in there. Give it a little snap. Voila. Starter's done. Cool. All right, set this over here. Now we'll go ahead and throw the valve cover on this rascal. Valve cover. This one I've actually cut the inside of them out. If you want to take a stock valve cover and say you're running big rockers or some of the champion rockers that have a clearance problem, you can just cut this out, put it on there, and you don't have to buy a real fancy valve cover if you don't want to spend the money on one. Something you can just do at home. I just punched a bunch of holes in it with the drill, and then took a small chisel and knocked it out, and then got the burrs cut out of it, if you want to know how I did that. lay my gasket in here, just like so. Wipe this here down. Bolts that are 8mm. Where'd that thing go? Right here. Get you over here closer. How about that? And I also vented this valve cover so my crankcase breather will actually vent through it. Then I'll have another barb coming off and I'm gonna run that to a catch can or another breather that's over to the side on the frame. If you wonder why them 2 holes are in there, which I already have those, I drilled all those and tapped the threads in them while I had it off. You don't want to try and drill and tap a hole in this valve cover while you got it on the motor. Then you get metal shavings and debris in your motor, and you don't want that. That'd be my daughter texting me. Go figure. She's probably gonna text me like 15 times at once. Cool. All right. Let me go grab the fan shroud. We'll put the starter housing on the fan shroud. Get the fan shroud on the motor. And we can probably set this to the side. We'll go ahead and put the vents in there as well. So let me answer this text message from my daughter and we will return shortly. All right, let's see if we can get some more done here. Let's put a little sealer on these air breathers that are gonna go in my valve cover. All right, like I said, this one's off the crankcase where your governor is. I don't know if you can see that. So you can put up here. This is the one where normally your governor shaft comes in, and basically it's real thin right there. But if you're easy enough, you can go ahead and tap that, and then I'll put an elbow on it, and that's also going to breathe over here to the valve cover. So I have one barb here, crankcase breathes to the valve cover. Then I have another line coming off either to a catch can or some type of another breather off the big port. So that's why I have that set up this way. This rascal in here. If you don't have the ability to, or tap set, whatever, to tap threads and stuff, you know, you can always look on the Go Power Sports website. They actually carry a valve cover. They carry real fancy ones that have, for Hemi and non-Hemi, that already have ports in them. So you can also pick one up that way if you don't want to take the time of tapping holes and trying to do it that way. All right, I'll put a clamp on this later. All right, that's done. Cool. Slide this rascal over here, get this out of the way. And let's put the fan shroud and starter housing together. These are the bolts that I'm using. Normally these come with a little 8mm head that come with it, but I got some little Allen heads, so they won't be as shiny as a factory chrome looking bolt. Line this jewel up. All right. Get this rascal put on the motor. What we got in the way? Just to get them all started before you go really torquing them down. I see a lot of guys, they want to use cordless drills to put everything together, which is cool. I got to where I just like doing it the old way. Might take a little bit more time, but you can feel if your bolts are threading into the aluminum or if they're cross threading. Once you cross thread one, then you got to take the time of chasing threads, re-tapping it. I guess I'm just hung up on the old school ways of turning a wrench sometimes. All right. All right, we'll set this to the side and see if we can't get the front wheel thrown together. Okay, we're going to assemble the front wheel. This is I think what they call a modular wheel from Go Power Sports. So I've never put one together. Can't be that hard, it's just nuts and bolts. We're building a mini bike, not a spaceship. So let me show you what I did. It comes with nuts and bolts when you buy them. But I wanted a different look. So this was, these are 1/4 coarse thread bolts with chrome acorn nuts. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but basically what I did here was take a piece of 1/4 all thread and just cut small bolts, Loctited them on the inside, and I had to measure out how thick the wheel was into relation of how long I needed to cut these. That way I could have chrome acorn nuts on both sides. So, went to Fastenal and they didn't have any of the length I wanted. They had some that were real long, so that's why I had to cut these down and make them. It ought to look pretty cool because I'm gonna put those in all the outside holes, and on the inside holes, I just didn't want to have to just leave a naked hole there. Small things I like to do. Why? I don't know. But I found the same style. It's kind of like a little acorn nut, different kind of thread. There's just some I had laying around, so I'm gonna put these on all the inside holes to cover just the holes up, bolted from the back side. So we can throw these together. Probably don't have to put Loctite on them, but why not? I didn't have room for a lock washer. Couldn't find lock washers that actually fit this small thread, so a little Loctite on it. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. And I'll also do the other side rim as well. I think I got enough of them. So anyway, it looks better than having just naked holes there. So let's tighten those up. Cool. Let's do the other one. Okay, I got both halves of the wheel itself done with the inside acorn nuts. What you can do with one of these, a lot of times when you get this tube, it's going to be in a box. I usually take this out of the box and just air it up. You ain't got to totally inflate it, but you air it up and helps it get its shape back. Also, if you get your tires, sometimes if you order tires and they come shipped and they're all distorted, they done zip tied them and shrink wrapped them, all that, and your tire's some goofy shape, you can take your tube, put your tube inside the tire, air it up. You don't have to put your wheel on it. You don't have to assemble it. This is just a something you can do before you try to assemble it to get some of the distortion of the tire back to its shape. So you can take and air your tire up or your tube up. That way it puts the tire back where it's supposed to be. And it's a lot easier to try and mount your wheel and everything together, and it's not all bent out of shape. And also what I'll do is I'll spray this down with some soapy water. Helps everything kind of slide together whenever you're putting the wheel halves in. And also you want to be careful when you're putting your wheel halves together that you don't get your tube in the way when you're putting the wheel in and pinch it. So we're going to try not to do that today. Got half in here. Don't want to go in there. Okay, it took me a little bit to get the back side of the rim seated, or the tire seated on the rim. So anyway, I got that done and got the bolts lined up. It did take a little bit to try and get the rim squished down. And so we'll finish tightening these up. And oh yeah, you want to know why I call this channel Busted Knuckles? Look at that. That's what happens when you drive a screwdriver through your finger. Anyway, so we'll finish tightening these up, shoot some air in the tube, put the valve core in it, drop some bearings in it. This part will be done. So let's tighten these up. Like I said, you don't have to use the chrome acorn nuts. They already come when you purchase them with nuts and bolts and washers and all that stuff. But I wanted a cool, different look, so I think this will be pretty sharp when you get it on the bike. It's a little added details that make a bike stand out, in my opinion. It's more work, but if it was easy, everybody would do it. Along, make sure we got them all tight. I did put lock washers on these, so shouldn't have any problem with them getting loose or coming off. And I think we got all of them tight. Let's double check this one more time. Yep. Cool. I'm going to spray this down a little bit with some soapy water, so where it didn't seat on the bead, it'll help it slide on there and seat real good. I do have the valve stem out. I'm just going to take the blower and just blow some air into it, let it seat real good. Then we'll put the valve core back in it. Where is it? Here it is. Shoot a little air in it. Look at that. Looks pretty cool. The new bearings here. And some of these front wheels, especially older bikes, they'll have a collar or a spacer in between the wheels. So whenever you sandwich your bearings in between there, you have a collar that goes in between the two bearings. So you're not putting too much preload on the bearings, making them wear out prematurely. This wheel already has a recessed boss inside of it. So whenever you put your bearing in, it bottoms out on it, so you don't have to have a spacer in it. So grab a hammer. And when you're putting these bearings in, you always want to beat on the outside, not beat. You want to hammer on the outside or tap on the outside of the race, not on the center part of the race, because that'll prematurely damage your bearing. So you can just go along the outside of it. Or you can take a big socket, stick on there, something flat to hold over the bearing. There we go. Find a cool valve stem to put on this later. All right, that's the front wheel. Let's lay it to the side and see what else we can get mocked up on this thing. Okay, found the right pit cock for this thing. Apparently I had the wrong parts mixed with the wrong gas tank. Anyway, so found the right one. Threaded on the inside, not on the outside, but whatever. So let's put a little sealer on this rascal. I did put a new little Teflon washer in here, but I'm putting a sealer on it anyway. Then we'll let it sit, and I'm going to put the gas tank on it later. Thread this rascal in here. See where we want it. Let's yeah, that'll work. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put the gas tank on and let this dry for a while. All right, let's see. Let's wrestle this rear tire in there. Grab a little grease, rag. See if we can put this rear axle and get the rear tire and all that stuff mounted. All right, what we're gonna need? We need a few spacers, wheel adjusters, axle, and if I can remember which side goes where. These can go there. Got a long and a short. Let's see. We're going to try for the long on the left side, short on the right. I don't remember. It's been a while. But usually take this here axle. You can put some WD-40 or you can smear your little grease on it. You ain't got to get carried away. Just put some on it. Helps everything slide together a little bit easier. All right, we need a brake drum assembly. Where's that at? Right here. Go ahead and take this. We leave that on there. We'll leave that on there. All right. I'm gonna put a little bit of grease right on the inside of this brake drum assembly. Don't want it all over the brake shoes, but a little bit right inside here. Perfect. All right. See if I remember how it goes back together. We need an adjuster on the outside. Ooh, voila. So many times we can drop this all over the place. I think that the long one goes on this side. We're gonna find out. All right. Already got bearings in it. They're all good. Spacers in there. Brake drum assembly. I got grease all over my hand. Watch the whole bike fall on the floor. Ooh, looky there. All right, see if we can snake this spacer in here without scratching everything up. Where does it need to be? A little bit higher. Oh. You roll that down out of the way. Right about there. Bingo. Cool. Other adjuster on it. We'll just put this on here so it don't fall apart. Did we get it lined up? I think that's right. I think. Oh, brake drum sitting. Yep. We got plenty of clearance everywhere. All right. Cool. Let's we'll go ahead and hook the brake. There's a brake bracket that goes right here. Let's go find that and put it on. There's bolts for that, guys. This is normally just a flat bracket. I took and cut a bunch of holes in it. Look at that. You don't have to, but something different. All right, we roll this down right here. Take this nut back off. I'm gonna leave all this stuff loose till I get everything mocked up, because you still got to adjust the tire, your chain, and all that. So I just got everything just sitting here. Then we'll go back later and tighten everything up. I don't think this matters which way it goes. Nope. All right. I'll go here. I think get a Carter pin that goes in that. All right, got a lock washer for this in a minute, but we'll just get it all mocked up for now, because you still got to adjust everything. This is kickstand bolt. Let's put the kickstand on it. That needs a lock washer. No, it doesn't. How do I get this grease out of the way? Get it all over thing. We'll just mock it up for now. Still got to get a spring for that rascal. All right, that's got that done. So we got it in a roller. Let's go ahead and get the motor, get it dropped in here. We need spacers. I'm going to slide this thing forward a little bit so I can get to the engine mount bolts. All right, where's the engine? Now it's starting to look like a mini bike. All right. I still got to do something with my kill switch here. I get the rest of the plumbing done whenever I get to that point. Air cleaner. Probably leave the fuel tank to very last. So I can get the seat done, the bars on it. I think I'm gonna leave the fuel tank to very last. Okay, cool. Break time. All right. I got my engine bolts in there, and I just got all this, got the spacers in there, and I got everything loose. That way I can move everything around while we put the torque converter assembly on it. So show you what we got. All right, this is the torque converter I'm using. It's a El Cheapo eBay special. People ask, there's a difference between the Comet and the cheap ones off eBay. Yes, I think there is. In my opinion, I think there is. I run both of them. I've got one on my Gambler bike that I built that I've run the dog snot out of through mud, dirt, everything else, and I've never had any problems with them. These, the cheaper ones, it seems like the casting and stuff and the way they put them together is not quite as good as a Comet, but that's my opinion. Like I said, this is what I had laying around, so this is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to attempt to show you how I assemble it on the bike. So I guess I can explain to you what I did have to cut some of this off the back for clearance because I did raise the motor up. This is going on a Baja. A lot of times you will have to notch the back of the plate. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. In my case, I did. And these torque converters, they do come with extra parts. So depending on if you're going to run a 35 or 40 chain, like this is going on a Baja, so runs a 420 chain. So they'll give you extra sprockets in the kit, which I put the 35 on something else. But so you make sure when you take it apart, usually they come with instructions, but make sure you pick the correct sprocket that you're going to run with for whatever chain and rear sprocket you're going with. So this case, it's a 420 chain. So let's grab all this, take it over there and see if we can't throw it on the bike. And also will come with different size spacers. And some of the spacers, you got to look for the inside diameter. Well, obviously this is going to be too big. So these are going to be your crank spacers to space out your driver on your engine crank. So we'll grab this and this. Loctite. See if we can't put it on the bike. All right. Usually when you put them on, a lot of times the back part of your torque converter, when you go to bolt it up, this back part right here will actually hit your dipstick. So you can cut the dipstick off. Make sure you got it good and tight. You can just trim the little tab off your dipstick for clearance. And I also had to trim the top of this down a little bit because it had a little lip that rolled off of it. So that way you got everything where it sits flush against the block. So I'll take the 4 bolts that hold it, the backing plate to the motor and put a little Loctite on them. Already got the shaft in it. We're gonna pull this gear off so it don't fall somewhere. And you just line up where you got your holes and spot here. Let's see, that should be it. Get them all started first. Well, then we'll tighten it down, make sure everything fits snug against there. We don't have any clearance issues. All right, then between here, everything looks good. And this is the part that I had to trim off. It was a little too close to the frame, and I don't want to have any issues, but I trimmed it right past where I could still get the bolts in to hold the cover. There's 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. So I trimmed that bottom edge. I wasn't just taking it off any more than what you need, but that's how I did it. I usually torque this to my wrist pops or my elbow pops first. Usually pretty good. Back check them. All right, we'll call that good. All right, then we're gonna put your rear sprocket. Actually, there's supposed to be a washer with the key cut out in it. Do believe this one goes on here. And we'll lay the keyway in it. Get that lined up inside there. Sprocket. Your rear converter. Now I'm gonna leave everything loose until I get all my adjustments done, where the chain tracks, where you got plenty of clearance. That's where you want to take the most time of putting one together, is leave your motor loose. Don't tighten anything up till you get all your chain on. Got your rear axle set where you want it. That way you can move everything around versus to see if you need to shim your sprocket back here, or if you need to move your drive wheel. If you're doing something out of say you're building a bike with totally pieces that didn't go together to begin with, kind of like this one. That way you can make sure everything is lined up so you don't have chain issues, chains rubbing, your chains breaking all the time, or it's getting in a bind, the bike doesn't roll good. That's why you leave everything loose. That way you can sit here and massage everything into place. Then you can go back and tighten stuff up. It's supposed to have a washer right there. This is your lock nut. So we'll leave that just finger tight. That spins good like it's supposed to. And then for the driver, we'll see how many spacers. Let's see, these are all the crank spacers. And see how we need to space that out. Just grab that. And this piece. And this has already got the little tab down inside of it. It's going to lock on your crank. So when it bottoms out against there, that's already hitting. So we know we're going to have to space this out. Probably one more. That turns, let's see. And when you line these up, you want to make sure your backing plate on both of these are good and flat, even. Like right now, both of them are off. This one's too far out. Engine one's too far in. So I might be able to take and pull that washer back out on the back. Or I could space this one back out. That needs to come out to right about there. So we're going to add another engine crank spacer, which is the big one here. That goes on the back. That goes back here. Just leave this loose till we finally get everything lined up like I want it. Get this out of the way. That's going to be pretty close for now. And we'll take this and line this up. Keyway. And the engine crank bolt, this is a 5/16 by 24 thread, which this one's going to be too short, so I'll go find another long bolt. But for now, we're just going to put that right there just to hold it in place. But that's the main thing when you're setting one of these up. You want to make sure the back two shivs or the back two parts of the pulleys are nice and straight with each other. So if you got one that's cocked out and one that's pushed in, that's going to cause your belt to prematurely wear. Won't engage right. It'll eat your belts up. So this is when you need to take the time to make sure everything is set up right. Then you can go by, like I said, your chain to your rear sprocket. That way everything tracks real good. Get everything lined up, and then you can go back and tighten everything up. So let me get the final longer bolt for that. Get this torqued down. And we'll go ahead and put the chain on it and get all that lined up, see if we can get everything adjusted out. All right, we're going to call that done for today. See how I feel tomorrow when I get home from work. And hopefully we can knock the rest of it out or get real close. So we'll see you later.